Good morning. So, back on the Cutlass today. We are attempting to solve problem number 2. Problem number 1 is solved. We got our but our clearance port basically machined and to the correct depth. However, we have problem number 2. Problem number 2 is the fact that the input shaft, the end of it actually, here, in the input shaft, is this space here is actually breaking the plane of the converter, basically bushing area. So it's actually going inside this. So if I was to put a regular style pilot bearing in there, it's going to stick out and it's going to prevent the transmission from seating properly against the flex plate. So what do we do? Well, there's a couple things that we could do. One of which is we could machine the bushing completely out of brass and just make it one of the OE style pilot bushings. And we can match the bushing to the geometry of the inside of the crankshaft. We could do that, but I don't think it'll have the high speed performance that we're looking for when we're revving to, I mean, it's an Oldsmobile, so it's not going to rev to 7,000. But even if it's at 5,500, you want there to be the least amount of friction possible between the input shaft and the supporting surface. So what we're going to do is I'm going to modify the pilot bearing and shorten it up a little bit so that taper the back of it so it matches this this contour right here. And then let's see what else. That, and I'm gonna make a stepped brass bushing, which Andrew's already started on. We could also drill the crank out with a 1 1/4 inch drill bit, but I'm not trying to do all that. I don't want to weaken the material more than I have to. I'm thinking of weakening it too much, but that seems the harder path. So I'm going to go to the garage and kind of show you what we got going on so far. Okay. All right, so this is our bushing. I machined the face and I tapered the back. That back taper is going to match the geometry of the crankshaft, and it's going to allow it to actually sit deeper in the crankshaft. So this is not butting up against the splines on the input shaft, and that's what was happening before. So this is the adapter piece that Andrew started making yesterday. So the idea behind this one, so this is the same diameter, or this is 2 thousandths larger, 2.5 thousandths larger than the crank bushing diameter. So this will be pressed in, and then this here will get pressed in from this side, and then this little lip here on the back, I keep moving the camera. It's hard to talk and film at the same time. Is this little thing here, this feature on the edge will align with the back side of that plateau, and that should give us the distance that we need, and this should butt right up against the crankshaft. So that is what is going to happen next. So what I'm going to do is bore this out. Oops, I dropped the bearing. I'm going to bore this out so that this bearing here is 2 thousandths larger than the bore here. And then I'm going to shrink fit this onto this and then press this bushing here into the crankshaft, and that should be it. We should be done. So I'm going to sneak up on it and assemble it, and hopefully everything goes well. All right. I'm machine with one hand and hold my camera with the other. Okay, so now I'll stop the machine, and then we'll take a rough cut, or not a rough cut, but a rough measurement to see where we are. Let's see. So turn these. All right. You always want to make sure your calipers are zeroed, which they're not. Let's see here. Sorry for the camera movement, but I'm trying to machine and film at the same time. Okay, so we are at, so really close. So 0.967. I believe the bearing is 1.094. Oh, pretty good memory. 1.094. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it down and zero out the caliper. And then I could do the math, which I could do, but it's easier just to go zero it out and then go back to the tool, or what the part you're machining, I should say, and then measure that again to see what the delta is. So the delta is 126 thousandths. So we're still quite a ways away. So I'll knock it down to about within 10 thou, and then I will start to take the fine cuts. All right, so this is gonna be 100 thousandths cut. We're gonna take off. Okay, let's measure it again. Should be, it should be like 20 something thousandths delta. All right, yeah, all right. So roughly 27. So now I'm gonna put the camera down and start trying to machine it and fine tune it. And I'll come back when it's actually finished. So I use the telescoping gauge to measure the ID of the bushing, which goes in here like this, and you basically just, it's called snap gauge. And sorry, it goes in like that. And then I take that measurement there, that distance, then I compare it with using the micrometer, which is using this, and then I measure the OD of the bearing right here with this and subtract the difference. So I gotta do one more pass on the lathe, and these are one of those passes where you have to basically hold your breath. I didn't move anything, so I'm just gonna barely kiss it, and it should take off about a thou or two. So let me try that now. Okay, so now I have the everything is to size. It's within 3 thou, and the bearing's not perfectly round, so on an average it's about 2,000 center finish fit. So the next thing we have to do, we as in me, I have to do a counterbore here. So I have to knock this down a counterbore 80 thousandths, and that's going to inset the bearing and give us a clearance that we need to clear the input shaft. 80 thousandths is about 1/10 of an inch, so just, you know, I wouldn't say shy of an eighth, but it's about 1/10 of an inch. That will offset the plateau on the back, and then I'll put a taper on the back of that plateau, and then it should fit together on the crank, no problem. We'll double check the dimensions on the OD of this, and then press them into place. Well, we'll heat shrink the tube. We'll heat shrink the bearing onto this, and then we'll press this into the crank. So, okay. Okay, so this is our bushing adapter. You can see here in the back, it's tapered like the crankshaft. The front has I didn't go with a counterbore in the front because the diameter of the input shaft is only slightly larger than this. So a heavy chamfer was going to be good enough. I chamfered the edges so that it goes in smoothly, but that is the finished product, at least as far as the bushing is concerned. So the next thing to do is to insert the bushing, press fit it into this, not upside down. So just like that. So ideally, This is going to drop in like this. That's going to sit below the counter bore, kind of like that. And then it's just going to sit deeper in the hole, kind of like, well, not like that, but it will. Actually, you know what? I'm going to have to put a standoff in there so that it inserts to the correct depth. Almost missed that. Okay, so I'll make a standoff, and then okay, so I had to summon some help from the wife because I don't have 4 hands, right? So I have to, and this is something you can't really mess up on, because if you mess up, then it's freaking jacked, right? So once it reaches equilibrium, it's done. So I'm going to heat this up. I have my spacer here. It's about 80 thousandths, and that's gonna give us the standoff that we need to offset the bearing. And then the bearing's in the freezer, and we have a little trusty cup of water here, so that way when it reaches equilibrium, or at least when it starts to stick, I can dump it in here, because this is going to be too hot. It's going to burn the rubber on the bearing. So that's what that's for. And I have my my trusty pliers here that I hate using, because these are pieces of crap, but it'll work.
Whatever gets the job done.
If everything goes well, in about 5 minutes, we'll be like, oh yeah, this worked pretty good. So
let's do it.
We're looking for like a cinnamon toast crunch color.
Like a caramel brulee type.
No, cinnamon toast crunch. And that'll be about 200 C.
You have to heat the whole thing or just part of it?
The part is the brass part. The brass is really conductive, so you can't heat up one part without heating up the other. See it's starting to turn color?
Yeah. It's not really cinnamon toast crunch color, but it's
toast crunch cinnamon.
How do you know it reaches the temperature you need it to?
I have the test.
Okay.
Here, see that? That's 200 C. Experience, honey. All right, so I'm gonna go grab the bearing real fast. Take me 35 seconds. This should just drop right in. Just like that. All right, see that? See it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now it's reaching equilibrium. See it turn colors. Not turn colors, but you start to melt the condensation. So I think it's fully. So now this goes in here like this. That's creme brulee.
How long does it stay? Is it gonna like jump out?
Yeah, it's got a monster.
It's gonna monster. Are you taking notes, son?
See, now it's warm to the touch. Or it's like soup.
How cold was the water?
It was just tap water. It's a baby. All right, so now I'm gonna go grab some napkins.
Napkins?
Yep. This is not your standard off-the-shelf GM pilot bearing. This is the MC2 fabricated and partially Smokehouse Performance started pilot bearing.
Did he have to call in the big guns for help, or?
I think he was still sleeping this morning.
Oh.
So, you know me, I don't have patience because I'm not a doctor. So, but yeah, so that's what it looks like. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty.
We'll just clear the input shaft. Mm-hmm. Yep. So the input shaft is roughly 30 thousandths actually larger than the bushing. So it's barely even, and it has a taper to it. So there's plenty of clearance. So this right here, this is going to go directly to the crankshaft. This is going to seat against the back of it, and that's it. But this is your custom bearing. So things are not always as they seem. We're 2 days in to installing this transmission, and which typically would take, we'd be done in about a day. but because this transmission is not necessarily designed to go in a Oldsmobile motor. Well, we have the QuickTime bell housing and all that good stuff, but when you're dealing with a bunch of different aftermarket parts, things don't always align because different manufacturers have different stacking tolerances. And if you get a bunch of, if every body is off by, 1/16 of an inch, and then, but you have like 10 parts, then you could be off by like an inch, it just depends. So that's why there's always an issues with when you buy all GM components and everything is designed together, then everything fits. But you have like QuickTime, then you got, TKX, then you got Oldsmobile, right, in the mix. And then you have all these different, then you got center of force, dual friction, not center force, but yeah, center force clutches, which is a pilot bearing. And these different materials, there's, it's just fraught with potential for issues. So that's why we got to do what we do. But I guarantee this, you will not see another Cutlass with a TKX transmission, or I shouldn't say that. I don't think you won't ever see one, but
You won't see them for a while.
you ain't gonna see one for a while because this shit does not exist.
So if somebody needs one of those, they just hit up MC2
Yeah, smokehouse.
or Smokehouse.
Yeah. You're feeling smoky, go to him. If you're feeling lucky, go to me.
Feeling lucky.
All right, so yeah. So the next thing we're gonna do, so this measured out, the diameter of this, I think it measured out at 707. 1.7, you smaller. 1.707.
Oh, was it close?
It's close, yeah.
Okay.
So the crankshaft bore was, I think I measured at 704.
Oh, really?
705.
705, yeah.
Yeah, so that's about 2.5. That's about where we want to be. So what we want to do is actually put this in the freezer, the whole thing together,
And just push it in.
and then just push it in, tap it in, and then base it out. And that's it. That's all you gotta do. All right.
Sure.
So the next video, or the next clip you'll see is of this installed in the transmission, in the crankshaft. Watch this. They do it on videos like this. Countersunk.
Is it cold enough, you think?
What's that?
Was it cold enough?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can only get so much out of that when you don't heat one up and cool one down.
Oh, yeah.
You
It's only one shrinking.
You don't get a lot of steam. You need a light to sit in there and see how far off the base we are. The old trusty snap-on camera. I feel like it's dark in here.
And where?
In this space.
Wow, it's a little dark.
It's close. It's pretty good all the way to the back. So there's a camera back here that I'm gonna switch it and see. It'll see the distance. We'll be able to see the distance. Hopefully.
That's the seal?
Mm-hmm.
Is it hitting the back?
It's really close. It's really close.
Isn't that the seal, though? Aren't you looking at the seal?
No, the seal is behind there. The seal's in the front.
Oh, the seal's in the front. Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty close.
All right.
It's pretty good?
Yep.
Actually, have some more light back here. I guess you can see pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Get a close up. Screenshot, there we go.